Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight. This is a very exciting night for me. You all, I'm sure, remember the wonderful time in our lives in Highland Park that started with Superstorm Sandy, when we lost electricity here for a couple of weeks, soon followed by the fire at the PSE&G substation in Edison, which put us down again for another long period of time. Since that time, since we lived through all of that, we've been trying to find ways to make our community more sustainable. And I guess it was soon after I became mayor, I guess almost 2 years ago, Susan, when we went down. So Council President Susan Welkowitz has been working very closely with me on lobbying our friends down in Trenton to help us find a way to be more resilient. And we originally went down hoping to get our own microgrid here in Highland Park so that if we went down again, we would have some way of keeping our residents warm and fed while the electricity was not present. We were told back then that New Jersey is light years away from other states from having a microgrid, a mini-grid, microgrid program here, and so we kept looking for alternatives. We have a piece of land in Highland Park that has been underutilized since the 1970s. It's a former dump site. It would cost us millions of dollars if we wanted to clean it up. And it's really doing us no service right now. So we thought about the possibility of creating a solar field on that piece of property that would hopefully help us learn more about how much energy we could generate in a clean way that might be able to help our residents. And so the folks at PSE&G came up with a proposal for us, which they're going to present today. This proposal, which they'll go into and where it's located, etc., would not only serve as a pilot to understand how much energy can be generated and how it could be used in a resilient kind of way, but it also will generate some revenue for Highland Park. And so at this point, I'd like to turn this over to Mr. Powers from PSE&G, and he'll explain the program and be able to answer any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. We're going to focus the projector so that folks can see it. And so we're very excited about this project, and I'm very happy to be here to explain the program and and speak about the project. I also want to introduce folks that we have here. We're partnering with Advanced Solar Products, Lyle Rawlings, and we're very excited about that. If they're not the oldest solar developer in New Jersey, they're one of the oldest. I would say they're the oldest. Yeah, so we're very fortunate to have Lyle with us. He's been in the solar industry since the 80s, right? If not before that. Yeah. So we're very excited. PSE&G has done a lot of work with Advanced Solar Products. We've built a couple other projects with batteries, which we're going to be doing this. Also is Paul Drake. He's with PSE&G, and he is our environmental and permitting expert, and he's going to help us navigate through the DEP and So if there's any environmental questions or permitting questions, Paul will be able to help out with that. And then also I want to introduce Jim Sherman. He's a project engineer with PSE&G, helping integrate solar and battery technologies that we're working on. And I guess I want to stand over here. I got it. So, and my name is Andy Powers. I am with PSE&G. I am the program manager for the PSE&G's Solar for All program. So to go through PSE&G's Solar for All program, by the end of 2017, we're going to have 125 megawatts of solar built. We've had two tranches of programs. The first tranche was 40 megawatts of solar panels on utility poles, where we use the vertical space of an existing asset, which saves a tremendous amount of farmland. Also, we built solar on parking lots, rooftops, as well as on some brownfields as well. And then our second tranche of program is where we were granted to install 42 megawatts on landfills and brownfields, and then also to build 3 megawatts of pilot programs, which was to integrate solar with batteries to provide resiliency and or to minimize or study the impact solar has on the grid. So those are the programs that we have. And some of the benefits with these programs is also it's a universal program. So with being and by saying universal, what occurs is that it's really the solar, all the PSE&G ratepayer gets to benefit from it. This program is paid for by the ratepayers, but then all the revenue that gets generated from the solar facility, the federal tax credits that come from the solar facilities, those revenues go back to offset the cost of the program that goes to the societal benefit clause within the PSE&G bill. And then one aspect, and an additional aspect specific to Highland Park, is that we'll be siting this facility in Highland Park, and then Highland Park will receive basically a rent payment from PSE&G for the next 20 years. And so those are those are some of the, there's a global benefit where all PSE&G customers get solar, as well as Highland Park specifically will get a lease payment. So also, I just want to talk about PSE&G's landfill experience. So at the end of this program, we're going to have 52.5 megawatts of solar built on landfills and brownfields. Also, that equates to about 198 acres that we've converted from a landfill into a usable green energy resource. And then with that also there's 9 projects that we built or we're developing. And then with the Highland Park project, this would be our 10th project, as well as an additional 2 acres and just a half a megawatt of solar energy. So I just want to talk about the Highland Park project and the site that's been selected, or that's been highlighted to develop. And with the site, this is a historic aerial from 1963. Prior to 1951, the records that we've done a lot of due diligence on this site. Prior to that, it was a vacant, undeveloped site. From 1951 to 62, it was used as a municipal landfill where construction debris and residential domestic refuse was placed. And then it was closed in 62 prior to any of the landfill legislation that was enacted. From 62 to 77, there was some sporadic dumping and use, and then also it was cleaned up and resurfaced during that period. And then in 1977 to the present, it's been vacant, and then temporary, it's been utilized by the Department of Public Works, as well as it's been, the lower meadows has been converted into a nature trail. So that just gives a little history, and the red rectangle is the site of the, I guess, is the Upper Meadows where the solar facility will be sited. Down here is, I believe, the DPW facility, and then right here is Donaldson Avenue. And this clear area is where the apartments are, today. So this is the proposed solar facility. I don't know if you can see it, but we did bring some an e-easel and a larger print where people can come up and look at, take a little closer, get a little closer look. That does help. So what's going to be proposed is a 662 kilowatt solar facility. As I mentioned, it'll cover two acres. It'll consist of nearly 2,000 solar panels, and then also there will be 2,000 kilowatt hours of battery capacity. Also, one thing with the PSE&G's Solar for All program, all the solar facilities connected to the grid, so it acts as a generating station. It's not connected to any building to where it backfeeds into a building to offset any bills. So it gets connected straight to the distribution system, and then that's where we sell the energy, we sell the SRECs, and then there's also other ancillary markets that we can participate in, and then those revenues, again, goes to offset the cost of the program. And then also, in particular with this facility, it's going to be used to study and mitigate the impact that solar has on the grid. This facility will be connected to a 4,000 volt circuit, and that's tied to the substation that did catch fire a couple of years ago. The site will be surrounded by a fence, and there will be landscaping around it, around the street side of the facility. So to highlight some of the benefits for Highland Park, what this facility will do. So the solar facility, the preparation of the solar facility, the permitting, all the engineering, all the material, PSE&G will, take care of all that. None of that will be charged to Highland Park. So PSE&G will take care of all that, and then also the landscaping associated with the project will improve the street view. Not only will we provide and take care of all the payment for the solar facility, PSE&G will pay Highland Park 20 years of rent that will escalate at 2.5% year over year for the next 20 years. Yeah. And then it is also with the solar, with the rent payment, it is tied to the generation, but once the first year estimated generation is set, the rent is based off of that first year estimated generation with the multiplier, and then it escalates at 2.5% year over year. If there's bad years of solar generation, that does not affect and is of no risk to the township. On the flip side too, if it's a good generating year, you won't receive the benefit of that. So there's no risk or reward. It's just there'll be a straight fee. Also, there will be no impact to the Lower Meadows Nature Trail, so the facility won't impact the Lower Nature Trail. And also the project will convert an unproductive landfill into a green renewable energy resource. Also will provide educational kiosk for the borough. Also will also provide educational services to schools if interested. The solar facility should reduce stresses on the electric distribution system that's in that area, and then the battery storage system will be used to study additional methods to improve the resiliency of the grid in this area. Also, other benefits I think with this that I don't highlight here is that, again, the whole facility will be sited off, and if you drive down there, it's very attractive to go and take your own refuge or your grass clippings or trees or whatever. We see this at a lot of our other sites where we have a site in the Kearney landfill in the Meadowlands, and you know, next thing you know, there's debris next to the road or next to our site. And so with the fence and the area being kind of closed off, people won't be able to go. I'm not sure, I don't know if this is an issue, but we see it at some of our other sites, and we've noticed that when we put fences up, it detracts from that. So I think that's a potential other benefit.
If I could add to that, we've asked our planner to work with PSE&G on the landscaping around the fence so that it's consistent with what we would like to see in Highland Park.
And then another aspect too is that our facilities, we do provide cameras at our facilities as well. So the site will have some cameras, so we'll be able to see. The cameras aren't for primarily security. It's more operational cameras, but you know, at times they can be used for security and other type of benefits. Also, what I've left off too is what I wanted to do is turn this over to Lyle and let him talk about the design of the system, and that it is a low profile system, and the racking system is a proprietary product that's been designed and developed by Advanced Solar Products. So with that, I'll turn it over to Lyle.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, as Andy said, it's a little different from the normal mounting system for a large ground-mounted array like this. Instead of pounding posts in the ground and doing a tall, 5, 6, 7 foot tall array, this is going to be a ballasted system, meaning that it's held down to the ground with paving blocks, so it just sits on the ground. So for one thing, that means it'll be quieter during construction. We're not pounding posts. And it's also just going to be a lower visual impact. The likely height at the tallest point is going to be about mid-thigh, about 27 inches off the ground. Another feature of it is that it will feature engineered materials laid down over the ground. So this will be geotextile fabric and clean 3/4 inch stone. And that does a lot of things. One is it makes it easier for us to build the array, but it will also effectively prevent erosion and control runoff and that sort of thing. So, it'll also absolutely minimize any maintenance of the grounds. And so that's it. It's going to be more attractive, I think, than your average ground-mounted solar array, and that was part of the purpose.
Can I ask a question? Is that part of the meadow ever flood? Because you're talking about keeping it really low down. Mm-hmm. Do you ever have flooding in that part of the meadow?
No, not in that part. Thank you, though. On the lower meadow, there is, but not on the other.
Okay.
And I have to say, even if it did, they're waterproof. They're made to go out in the rain all the time, so the short flood wouldn't hurt it, actually.
Yeah, and it is the upper meadows, and that's part of the due diligence that we've done. We have a solar facility in Linden that did get submerged during Superstorm Sandy by brackish water, but this, I believe, is high enough. We're Paul Drake can probably talk.
We're on the flood.
Yeah, we're definitely out of the floodplain. So those are things that we investigate prior to doing installations. Is there any other? Is there any other questions?
Andy, would you like us to turn on the light?
Yeah. Do you want? So we did, like I said, we did bring some larger prints that I know it's we kind of go through the slides fairly quickly. So if you want to take a closer look, we do have larger prints where you can see the proposed layout.
I was just wondering about when it snows, it looks like it's going to get covered. Does it?
Yeah, but
Yeah, but it slides off pretty easily because the glass is pretty slippery. So for the most part, it'll slide off.
And you've taken the deer into account?
They pretty much stay away from these, we found. Yeah, we don't see breakage or anything like that from deer.
we actually, at one of our landfills, we had just this past year under construction, there was a baby deer that was, they saw a baby deer in one of the arrays. So So they do roam, but we have not seen any damage. We do get not damage, but rodents get into some of the electrical boxes. There are some foxholes that we have to deal with sometimes, but no, deer we haven't had any issues with theirs to date.
Well, you mentioned the surface that it's sitting on, a permeable layer, and then rock, so that it will percolate, rainwater and all the waters will percolate through this layer into below it.
Correct.
Correct? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be washing off. And you're not going to have to create any kind of basins or drainage facility for it.
Don't
Just rely
anticipate.
on this.
Don't anticipate that, no.
Right.
Yeah, and it'll be engineered to slow runoff as well. So the stone is relatively big stone with a lot of spaces in there that'll tend to slow down and trap the water to some degree. So during a storm, it won't just, whatever can't percolate won't be rushing off. It'll be slowed down, which is normally what we want.
This is a small point, but I saw on the list that you have an educational kiosk in borough office, I guess here, right? And tours, which I think is great, but I also think it would be good to have an educational, some signage there saying what this is, how much energy it produces, so that, when people walk along there, they know what the benefit of solar is. So along with the landscaping, I think we should just do a little more education in that area.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. Actually, I don't think I covered it, but I did write it down. So with this solar facility, with this solar facility, it'll be able to power 109 homes. So the solar facility that's being built here in Highland Park will power 109 homes. With our PSE&G program, of the 125 megawatts, that can power up to 20,000 New Jersey-sized homes. So, a lot of the stuff that we've been doing is it's good stuff. I'm very proud, very proud of it.
I mean, there's definitely room for some type of interpretive signage that would allow, from an educational standpoint, to explain actually how solar works. A lot of people don't understand how it actually, they think the sun, and how does that sun get into when you turn your light switch. But it's a pretty interesting concept how it all happens. It goes through an inverter, from the sun through the panels, and then ultimately, but
if you could do that, then there could be, I don't know what kind of tours you have in mind, but then our teachers in the schools could actually bring their kids down to look at the explanation of solar, and there it is, right there. Just like the Raritan River, right? It's like we have it in town, and it would be useful as an educational means for kids coming up.
Yeah, we've done, on a couple other projects I worked on, not solar, we did some pretty interesting interpretive signs. On a large transmission project up in North Jersey, we did some interpretive signs that are just unbelievable and actually really show how electricity is transmitted long distances through transmission lines. But certainly with solar, there's plenty of graphics that we would have at our resource that we could sort of assemble and explain and tell the story on how solar works.
Because you see solar fields now cropping up, but you don't usually see signage or interpretive signage. So that's really a plus, because we may be doing a solar project in town residentially, and it just adds to the enthusiasm, the understanding of it.
Question. What happens after 20 years? So you're not renting it anymore. Do these things decay, and do you have 2 acres of stuff to get rid of?
Yeah, so solar panels, and Lyle can probably speak to this much better, but actually solar panels come with a 25-year performance warranty. They've been known to last up to 40 years. With the lease is for 20 years, but there are options to extend it for another 10-year, 5-year extensions, so 2 5-year extensions. So it could be up to 30 years. At the end of the term, PSE&G, if so choose, will remove the facility and return the facility back to its original condition.
One of the reasons we're looking at PSE&G to do the installing and run the program is for their financial security, so that there's not a party that sets up solar array and then just skips, and then they go bankrupt, but these guys are not in that.
Plastic.
Right, so they're gonna be responsible for the project until the end.
Also, you said that if, like, we had a Hurricane Sandy, this would be a benefit to us, but you're saying that it's all going back into the grid. So, what does that mean?
So do you want to address that, Andy?
Sure. So the facility will be going into the grid. If there is another Hurricane Sandy, there is this resource. We don't know how it will be used to provide resiliency, but when those times come, we have a lot of smart engineers that might be able to come up with something that could provide something. But at this time, there isn't any.
It's noteworthy that this is a pilot for them, sort of a test. And, if there is a way, we'll be learning if this can help us through those periods, right?
Now, what are the batteries? I didn't quite get the battery part.
Yeah, so the battery aspect of this facility, and thank you, I probably didn't make that clear, that this is a pilot, it falls under the pilot program that we have running. Integrating the batteries and solar provide the facility greater abilities, and those greater abilities is to provide smoothing. So solar is a variable resource. On a sunny day, it's a lot of, you have energy. If it's a very cloudy, intermittent clouds, you have a lot of spikes and valleys. With the battery system, that'll help smooth out that. So that's one aspect that we'll be utilizing the batteries with this.
They're right there under them? Is that
No, so in the, right here is this blue box. Is where what we say is will be equipment pads, and there will be batteries located in that area. So
it's going to stay charged and then all the rest is going to be...
That's correct. That's correct. And so not only will it be used to help smooth the solar, but also provide some resiliency within the distribution system within that area. And we'll be researching that and seeing how we could utilize this in other areas as well.
The thing that was very appealing to me about this possibility is the project is located not far from an area where more of our economically challenged residents live. And if you recall, after we were down for so long, those 2 times I mentioned before, people lost food, and there was nothing we could do to replace it. So maybe this will allow that part of town to stay more charged. That's what we'll be learning.
Yeah, well, no.
I'd kind of like to address, Craig Ambrock, I'm a volunteer dendrologist, and I wanted to kind of address the impact of the lower meadows forest. So the perimeter of the site, we all know what it looks like. So there's a series of valuable trees along the southern perimeter, right? Native species, wonderful species. There's wetlands on this side, there's wetlands on this side. The proposal has it, currently, there's a black locust forest here that is a pioneer species. It comes in first on a very disturbed site. And it's a wonderful species. They actually plant on top of mining piles. Because what it does is it brings in nitrogen. It's a nitrogen fixer. So it takes nitrogen from the air, puts it into its leaves, puts it into everything in its growing material. As the leaves fall, as they fall, it decays and it goes into the soil. It creates this improving ecosystem. So that's my theory about why there are wonderful 34 different species in the lower meadows. Originally, the black locust come in, they've improved it. So I see them as pretty valuable, the trees. And I think that they should be preserved as much as possible. And if you look at it, I consider that forest to be a pretty sensitive site. The trees are in good shape. The understory and the ground covers are pretty invasive species. So it's important, I think, to maintain the health at all costs to those trees and to the variety in the ecosystem. I think if you start taking out trees, you're going to really impact that site in the long term.
Sure. And Paul,
Sure. Yeah, no. That's a good point. We certainly did walk the site. We're looking forward to actually walking it again with your folks, Environmental Commission and so on. And we'd like to go over those areas with you in the field. And to the extent that the array is adjusted or can be adjusted. Right now, it's pretty tight, obviously. But I think there were also a lot of tree of heaven out there and some sumac and some other invasives that have come in. But I know where you're referring to, the black locust areas certainly were prominent. So I think you're correct on this slope. There was a lot of really nice larger trees that obviously are holding that slope in place. So we're going to be looking at all those areas. And one thing I know I've learned working with these guys in solar is, the sun works as well as it does when it's out and it has great access to the panels. But when you cause shade, the sun's not hitting the panels as well as it could, and it reduces the production of solar energy. But to some extent, there's a trade-off you have to sort of look at, and obviously we're looking at that. We're looking at that very carefully. I think we had seen an earlier concept or layout, much more extensive down into the lower meadow, and we suggested that's not going to work because obviously it's a very, as I explained to the mayor before, it's a very loved area. It was apparent that your folks are having nature trails through there, and as I explained it to Jim when we were doing a walk down, when volunteers put their sweat equity into the land, then it's clear that we're not going to be able to come in and say we're just going to put solar here. That wouldn't be appropriate. I think in the upper meadow, there's a clear understanding it's fairly well disturbed. It's been through the last 40 years pretty well disturbed, but the lower meadow is certainly a great resource along the Barron River, so we intend to keep it that way.
I'm Steve Brownson with the Environmental Commission. Just a couple of points too about the site. When the site was cleared of the debris that was on it and grading was done, some of it got pushed over onto the steep slope on this side. Last time I looked at that, hadn't fully stabilized. So there may be, if we were going to go in and finish it out of there, we put some log or some timber revetments in there, some core matting, and replant it, do a little soil bioengineering. The other point is that I guess it's down here in this corner where the batteries are going to go. We're going to have to negotiate with the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection and the National Recreational Trails Program. We told them we would put an extension of the existing trail over here to connect in with the bike path. Now, we can reroute it so that it goes around the battery area, which I think is fairly easy to do, but that area along the bottom portion of the site, that's partially, I think it's most of it is in the Lower Meadows part right now.
Right.
But that's where we told DEP we're going to spend some money and put another trail in. One other thing, I don't know if you looked at the end of Donaldson Street, where there's a drain coming out, it's a storm drain. They got a lot of head wall cutting back there. I don't know how that's going to impact the stability of the site where the batteries are going to go.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to say is we are, and explain to the mayor, this application, or this is really an informal discussion. Our intention is to come before the planning board and have a full application to the planning board. And ultimately, I would then assume the Environmental Commission will have a full opportunity to review it from the planning board standpoint. we haven't yet prepared that application, but we'll certainly be doing that very shortly as things move forward.
Any other questions?
Yeah, you said this would be paid for by the ratepayers, that would be us, right?
Yes.
So how much would our electrical bill go up for this?
That's always a good question. I don't know the number off the top of my head. I apologize for that, but it's not a significant. It's not significant. Like I said, I'm sorry, I don't have that.
Also, it's not the ratepayers in Highland Park that are going to, it would be,
All of PSE&G, all of PSE&G ratepayers.
pay for this program called Solar for One.
You're already paying
You're
for
already
it in
paying.
other locations.
There's 7,000.
Right.
They're gonna pay for the S-Rex, whether it's PS&G or something.
But again, that's the one thing that, with the solar industry, with the solar in New Jersey, and you can probably speak better to this than I can, but with this program, all the ratepayers get the benefit of as well. As I said, there's the 30% tax, federal tax credit that comes back, that then goes back to the ratepayer to offset the cost of this. The revenues get generated from this goes to the all of the ratepayers of PSE&G. Unlike where if it's your neighbor that gets the solar, you still have those subsidies, but then it's your neighbor that is getting the benefit, not yourself. But through this program, all the PSE&G ratepayers get the benefit of it.
I can just add that this PSE&G Solar for All program fits within the larger picture of New Jersey's statewide solar program, and the overall size of that program is fixed in legislation, so this will not add to, it fits within that total. The total doesn't change. So whether it's PSE&G here in Highland Park or some private developer somewhere else, they won't affect the cost at all.
Any other questions?
Just one question about the 2.5% that we would be getting. So that's just a straight 2.5% for the next 20 years. Why isn't that tied to the price of electricity or to inflation or some other? Right now we have very low inflation. I mean, they even have negative interest rates in Japan and Europe. In 10 years, the inflation rate might be much higher, and 2.5% might be considered very, very low. Why couldn't we tie it to something that would be more time sensitive than interest rates?
It's the design of the program. So the program was designed actually at the time it escalated 3%. The panels degrade at 0.5% year over year. So then it said straight 3%, but the panels degrade at 2.5%. Excuse me, at 0.5%. So we set that escalation at 2.5%.
But you're competing against the price of coal and oil and nuclear and everything else. Would it be better to tie it to the price of your alternative solutions?
Well, it's the actually the rent payment is really set to the cost of energy, and so the cost of the energy is actually is low. Right now, we're selling our wholesale energy at around 3.5 to 4 cents per kilowatt hour, and so the rent payment is set off of that, and then escalates at the 2.5. It's really the design of the program.
So you're saying we can't change it?
No.
All of those details were approved by the Board of Public Utilities, so we can't without going back to the BPU.
I wanted to ask about the timeframe for construction. I understand that there's some grading work that needs to be done, some site work, and I just wanted to get an idea from the contractor, a site this size, how long do you anticipate that taking? And I guess how long would it take? Because it couldn't start until you went through the whole bidding process.
Right.
Planning board, right?
Yeah, there'll be more paperwork than work. All of the approvals, planning board, engineering, permitting, and, you know, it's environmental, DEP it has to go to. So that process will actually take longer than the time it will take us to build it. Once we get, you know, shovels in the ground, so to speak, I would say this is probably 4 months tops to get it done.
Okay, and do you anticipate, what would be the comfort disruption to the people who surround the site as far as noise or heavy equipment?
Right. Well, a good thing about this ballasted system that we're talking about, as I said, there's no pounding of posts, so that noise is eliminated. Most of the work is literally done by hand. The materials have to get into the site, the solar panels, the racking, and the big inverter machines. So there will be truck traffic into the site to bring the materials there. And, you know, there will be some truck traffic in terms of spreading the materials and doing the site work. That's probably maybe less than a month's worth, I would say, 3 weeks to a month's worth of the site work. And after that, it's mostly work by hand, not very much heavy machinery on the site. But I think what the residents will notice is the trucks bringing in the materials, you know, to the site.
But for like 3 weeks? Not
Well,
like the whole...
well, that was the site work, but bringing in the solar panels and the racking, it'll be the site work, which will be 3 weeks to a month, plus the amount of time for the trucks to come in to bring in the actual solar panels and such.
But you don't see any disruption to traffic, or people can still access their apartment building?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, when trucks are going over the road, they may slow traffic somewhat, but they're not going to, it's not that many trucks to bring the materials in, so I don't think it'll be a noticeable impact.
Okay, any more questions? All right then, I want to thank you all for coming in again to explain this to our residents, and all of you for coming to ask your questions. I think this is a wonderful opportunity for us and certainly for you. So again, I want to thank you. And just so you know, the council will be voting on a resolution to make this happen and go forward to the planning board. I think it's at the July meeting. Yes? July 12th meeting. And then it'll be forwarded to the planning board. So if you have additional questions, you'll have an opportunity to ask them at that time as well. Again, thank you guys.
Thank you.